Hello and welcome along to the Panto podcast. This week my guest is probably best known for his children's television. It's Chris Jarvis. We talk about how he got started in children's television, his impressions, his new venture called Little Radio, and we talk about grey bits, or in my case, lack of hair. Can I please ask you as well to download Little Radio or pass on the details to people with young children? It is an absolutely stunning station that Chris has set up, and it does kind of relive back your childhood memories, and it's great to nod off with late at night. Full details can be found at littleradio.co.uk, and it's on all the app stores as well. So please sit back and enjoy the latest Panto podcast. Well, my guest for today's Panto podcast is Chris Jarvis. Hello, Chris.
Hello. Thanks for having me on.
Well, thank you for agreeing to be on. So, I always like to start how people got into the business and what made you want to get into it as a child.
Well, I mean, I was taken to the Pantos very early on, and I just loved it. I mean, I just sat there and lapped it all up, as I'm sure everyone listening to this podcast went through as well. You know, that experience, whether you're actually in the business or not. And, you know, then I got the opportunity of being in the local amateur dramatics, and our Pantos were great, loved all that. And then to get the break to do a professional Panto, having been in kids' TV, was just a dream come true. It meant more to me than being on telly, I have to tell you. That was the ambition, not the telly.
Really?
Oh, big time. Absolutely. I mean, theatre for me, above everything. In fact, I probably rank it theatre, then radio, and then television. Television is hard work and exhausting and, you know, necessary. And obviously I love to watch it, but I won't lie about that, my gosh. But, you know, if I could be anywhere, I'd be in a theatre, either performing or watching. I love theatre.
How old were you then when you saw your first Panto?
I was probably far too young. I actually remember the first time I went into a theatre, it was raining and we were taken in to see the Freddie Starr show in Weston-super-Mare. My parents, I think it was just to get out of the rain. And then when they realised what the show was all about, I just remember the hands going over my ears all the time during this show. Which actually makes you even more curious, doesn't it, about, well, what's so funny? But no, and then, of course, going to the Pantos, and our local theatre in Essex was the Hornchurch Queen's Theatre, who still do a rep company Panto, which they rehearse for weeks, which is fantastic to know that that's still going, because that was always a brilliant show. We used to go to the Chelmsford ones as well, and Southend, which is excellent now with the Cliffs Pavilion, and the Towngate is back, you know, with a tremendous Panto. Now, I have not seen it since it's come back in its new form, since it reopened. But, you know, we went to the old Towngate Theatre, which was a shed in a car park with a shower curtain. It was terrible. But the new glossy Towngate Theatre, well, new, it's 20 years old. But, you know, that was great. I'm so pleased it's thriving. Really pleased.
Do you remember then that very first Panto you went to go and see?
The first Panto would have been an Aladdin, and I remember we were sat stage right side, and every time that genie came out and the pyrotechnic went off, you know, I was inhaling that smoke because we were right down the front. I was addicted to the smell of the pyrotechnics. But no, I remember it and just thinking, who are these crazy people? And I just loved absolutely everyone. When the Dame came on, you know, it's like, as a child, you know, I was just thinking, who is this woman? She reminds me of a lady at church. And I just thought, you know, I just love all these characters. You know, it's really, I'm quite an odd person, and everyone who knows me will tell you that. And I actually thought, I can relate to these people. She wants to know who these people are, even, you know, because when you're that age, you don't really know what's real and what isn't. And, you know, I just loved all these amazing people on stage, wearing lots of makeup and smelling funny, whether it be makeup or the pyrotechnics. Loved it.
So when you actually took that leap and decided to sort of get involved, how did that come about?
Opportunities, obviously, in the amateur world and at school. You know, I was cast in a couple of plays which were good in my junior school, and and there was a lot of music going on with really good teachers who were really into their music, and the same at secondary school as well. Amazing. So I was really fortunate, and I'm now a trustee of a charity called Action for Children's Arts that's trying to champion getting more arts in the schools, because it's absolutely disgusting what's going on at the moment. You know, it's been so sidelined. You know, the kids aren't being exposed to enough theatre, and it's not even that, it's own culture as well, museums, just getting out. But I was very lucky, very, very lucky, and I got all those opportunities. Not all what I wanted to do, not really into Shakespeare, if I'm honest, but all that sort of builds and doing musicals as well, not really my thing, but it all makes you really appreciate the things that you do like even more, and you do have to stretch yourself, don't you? And so discovering that Panto was my thing was, I'm still discovering it, to be honest.
I can hear how much you're speaking about with such affection and enthusiasm about it all. Were there any characters that you played in the younger years that you wouldn't revisit back now, or?
Well, in terms of Panto, I've always been the comic, or playing Jack or Dick or whatever. Just put a little bit of that in all the time. So obvious, but no, I think that I was very lucky. My very first Panto, because before we started recording this podcast, we talked about how some people have a bad experience and then they never do Panto again, and that is awful. And as much as Panto is kids' first experiences of theatre, for a lot of performers from other areas like television and other forms of entertainment, they come in. If we don't give them a good experience, they won't do it again. And I can't think of just how many people we've probably lost. And we're not allowed to mention names, are we? But there are a few really good kids presenters who, well, you'll never get back. And that's really sad, because they'd probably be brilliant. But no, I was really lucky. My first Panto, I was with Hair Flick, Richard Gibson, Jack, Richard's amazing. I was with him again last year. Lovely, lovely guy, really good actor. And Jack Douglas, who was incredible, Bernie Nolan, Claire Buckfield, all on the same bill in Guildford, and I was really looked after, and it was a great experience. Rick Gaynor, who was lovely, and Matthew Linus. It was a wonderful cast, and and so I was really lucky. And then the next year I was in Richmond with Derek Griffiths and Bernard Cribbins and Bonnie Langford and Terence Hardiman. I was really lucky, and so that kept it going.
People you grew up watching then?
People I grew up watching and also respect. I've been doing a lot of name dropping, but it was all necessary to show you how lucky I was in those early years of doing Panto.
Ever thought about being a baddie?
Oh, yeah, it'd be great fun. Yeah, I'd love to play all the parts in a Panto. And, obviously some probably won't get into the costume anymore. But the idea of playing Dame really excites me. I did do it in a CBeebies Panto, which was great fun. But, to do it for an adult audience as well as kids would be great. But there are so many brilliant dames that I would be very, very wary about doing that. I'm not sure I've got the right physique or necessarily certainly not the right voice at the moment, unless gin and fags are the sound you want. But no, this is post-cold. This is not alcohol. But no, I think that Dame definitely, baddie, yeah. But I think once again that is, see, all these roles in Panto are their own different crafts. There are people who only play Dame. Michael J. Batchelor is, a dame all year round, and it's his craft. And woe betide anyone who tries to do it, without watching people like Chris Hayward and Nigel Ellicott and Andrew Ryan and all these amazing dames out there. Matthew Kelly, you mentioned, and his son Matt Rickson. They are masters of the craft, and I'd be very wary about sort of jumping into that role.
When did you first then start to think, I'm going to start directing?
I had a bit of a weird year, and I thought, do you know what? I couldn't do any worse. So I thought, if I'm to do this again, I'm going to direct. And but I was very, very lucky because, I worked with people like Derek Griffiths and a really good guy called David Jansen, who's amazing, really good director and a brilliant actor. So I was really spoiled. Maurice Lane, all these lovely directors. And then if you have a bad one, it's like, oh dear, I've learned so much from them, and and maybe that's when people leave the business or actually think I'll never do Panto again because they have one bad experience.
Has it been difficult for you ever?
Directing and being in it, I will never not do it. If it came to it and somebody said, right, well, if you want to do Panto, you can either direct or you can be in it, which one would you want to do? It'll be directing, because I can't do that again. It's a very different thing to directing any other kind of... There are very few people who can do absolutely everything. I wouldn't dare direct Shakespeare or anything else. But I do know about Panto. I've learnt about it. I've worked it and got quite a bit of experience now. But I also go in there knowing that I'm working with people who can also contribute, who I need to listen to. And the most important thing, especially if you've only got a week to put it on, is to really make sure you've listened to everyone before you go in there, and make sure you've got everyone on side. Because of course, the most important thing about Pantomime is the warmth. And if you haven't got that, and you haven't got that in the room, and you need it from day one, you've got a terrible show.
How do you get the warmth then?
By making sure that, hopefully, if you're friends with everyone, that's fine. But like good company managers, I think, are friendly to everyone and friends with no one, because that way, they can always, when things get tricky, make a valid decision without looking like they're taking sides. The director almost has to do the same thing, and you have to look after absolutely everyone. Treat everyone the same. Obviously, some people might need more help. But you need to be very fair, and I think one of the things because I'm so into the show, it's not just about my performance. I'm so careless about. Of course I do. I love it, but the most important thing for me is the show. I grew up watching Perry and Croft and Jeremy Lloyd sitcoms, which relied on a rep company of people working together to get the laughs. If you watched an episode and then asked someone and said, who got the laugh on that line, the bit where who actually delivered the punchline, they wouldn't be able to tell you, because it was a proper team sport. And I think that's what a panto is. And a good panto, you get the amazing stars sometimes that go in there. I remember seeing Bobby Davro in Woking one year, and we were crying with laughter, and it was a bit of a Bobby Davro show, but it was brilliant, and it was a great night. But the sort of pantos that I do, I like it when everybody has a share of the pie, and you're working together, because not every comic is as skilled as someone who can just do what Bobby does, or Danny and Clive do up in Newcastle. You have to work with what you've got. And if it's me as the comic, then you've got to work hard. But which is why I always work with wonderful people.
What about the kids then? What part of you is the child that's still watching the panto?
Well, I've got quite a daft sense of humour in that I find panto jokes, even though I've probably heard them every year, I still find them hilarious every time I hear them. It's so I'm a very good audience member, because if I'm in the audience, I will laugh, even if I've heard them or even written them and you've nicked them off me. But I will find pantos, as long as they are good and well written, tremendously funny. Whereas I'm not really into stand-up comedy. I'm not into observational comedy. Anything where you've really got to think, oh, for heaven's sake, you just want to have a good time, don't you? You need slapstick, a good dollop of clever double entendre, which is only double entendre and not pointed. Can't stand it when people moon to the audience. What's all that about? You've taken a really clever bit of double entendre and destroyed it by mugging at the audience, you might as well just say, I'm filthy, and explain the joke to them, because, horrible, hate that, really can't stand it. You know who you are. You know who you are.
That's the baddie voice coming out, isn't it?
Never work again. But no, I mean, I think, some people, do you know what I mean? There are rules are there to be broken, and there are no rules in pantomime, which is why people love doing it. And you get great actors, going into pantos, putting on these amazing performances, because they're allowed, they've got freedom. I didn't see Robert Lindsay last year, but I'd love to have seen him. There was word that Fraser Kelsey Grammer was nearly booked for Richmond a few years ago. I would have done a sickie to go and see him. No, of course I would. Never, ever been off. But, he was somebody I'd have loved to have seen play, because I reckon he would have been brilliant.
Do you think he would have got it?
I think he would have done. I think he's always over here. He's always doing shows here. And I think he gets our humour. And, I think he would have done. What do you think?
It would have been interesting, especially for the children.
It would have been good in Richmond, wouldn't it, as well? I think he's a very Richmond performer.
Quite a sophisticated area.
Yeah.
But we'll come into your sort of choice of pantomime people a bit later on.
Okay. Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier on then about Croft and Perry. Who else makes you smile, makes you laugh, from now even to going back as a child?
I think the really outrageous original comics, I mean, I know that covers a few bases there, but people like Kenny Everett, Kenneth Williams, anyone called Ken, really, Kenneth Horne, I thought they were very Ken Dodd. Yeah, Ken Dodd. He was following around the country with us. Who hasn't? He's been in every theatre everywhere. But those sort of larger than life characters, people who just come on scruffy, who look like they've been queuing up for a whatever in the pub, who just wander on stage, they haven't even done the flies. I just think, make an effort. Where's your showbiz? Come on, this is awful. I'm probably a bit old-fashioned there. Very old-fashioned, but no, I love outrageous performers. Alan Carr today, I think he's wonderful. I think he's brilliant. I like comics who aren't necessarily politically correct, because in a theatre, it's fine, and if it's for adults, that's fine. Not in a panto. Panto's got to be clear. It's got to be, it's for the kids as well. It's for family audiences. But I think that, in my private life, who do I like watching? Pretty much, anyone who's made an effort, to go on stage. I'm horrible, aren't I?
No, not at all.
Yeah, it's like a psychiatrist's chair, getting all this out. Yeah, but no, I like genuinely people who have crafted an act and don't waste my time. And I think that there are too many performers who look like they're making it up, and they're like, it's like spam emails. They're putting all this stuff out in the hope that eventually, somebody will buy the Viagra, but somebody will eventually laugh at one of their jokes, and then they swear. And sorry, it's not on. Swearing on stage, don't like it.
Anybody you wish you had seen performing?
Who I didn't.
Who you haven't seen perform?
I still haven't seen Alan Carr live. I'd love to see him live, and I'm not really into stand-up anyway. I find it a bit boring. But, I would love to see him. There are people like, I would love to have seen Kenny Everett's show being recorded. I thought he was a genius. Absolute genius. And we were talking about him earlier as well, and what he would be doing now with digital technology.
What he would have been like in Panto.
Well, yeah. Did he do it?
No, he never did.
That's a shame.
What I know,
really?
Anyway.
That is a shame.
Unless any of our listeners can correct me.
Oh dear.
But no, I don't think he ever trod the boards.
Yeah. Oh no, he was a huge influence on me, because I loved television comedy at the time, but also radio and voices. I started off as an impressionist. That's how I got my break, doing characters. So
what was that for then?
I used to do them on LBC, on local radio, and for Australian programmes as well. I used to do a very good impression of Stephen Allen doing Mrs. Thatcher, who is a genius and a very good dame. I'd love to work with him. That's how I started. But Kenny Everett was great because all his characters weren't necessarily impressions; they were more his own creations. And talking to Justin Fletcher, he loved him as well. We're quite similar in similar ages and grew up watching him too. Yeah. In fact, one of the characters I do on Show Me, Old King Cole, is because Kenny Everett's real name was Maurice Cole.
Yes.
So I did hello darlings, it's Old King Cole, and I'm a merry old soul, and it's all done in the best possible taste. So I do a little bit of Kenny, a bit difficult with a bad throat, but he was a god. Kenneth Williams as well. I thought he was a brilliant storyteller. He did a Jack and Ori on the Dribblesome Teapots, which is not a brilliant story, but he made it fantastic. And you just know if he'd been in a panto, it would have been great. But I'm not sure whether he would have done it, actually.
I think it would have gone off the book.
Yeah, far too good for that, dear. Who can't do a Kenneth Williams impression? But especially you've got a cold, nice and easy. Yeah, because when you've got a cold, the two impressions you can do are Vincent Price and Kenneth Williams, a lovely nasally sound.
I never knew that about you, that you did the impressions.
Oh yeah, I know. I used to do them all the time. Yeah, but it's a muscle doing impressions, and the problem with impressions now in a panto is that when you've got an audience 2 to 102, finding the impressions that everybody knows, you're on a hiding to nothing. And if you start doing impressions, then where do you go? You've got to pick only the ones that everyone's going to know, and if you start doing old ones, then the review comes out and says Chris Jarvis did wonderful impressions of Kenneth Williams and Frank Spencer. You go, no. I mean that is the worst advert. I mean, how dated does that sound? Yet, unfortunately, anyone who falls over on stage and goes, "Oh, well, there's a bit of trouble," actually will get a laugh on that. Whereas you won't get a laugh if you do an impression of somebody who's a YouTuber or something, because do you know what? They're not quite as funny. And, as much as, I respect YouTubers, they haven't quite got it, when it comes to showbiz entertainment. As much as people love to know how to clean makeup brushes, it's not really relevant in a panto.
That sounded a bit like you're kind of...
I'm bitter and twisted.
Well, no, just a bit anti kind of what children are watching these days.
Do you know what the children are watching on YouTube is fantastic, because what they're doing, they're interacting with basically like a living encyclopedia of video content. So kids into trains are finding out about trains. They're using it to broaden their knowledge, and I haven't got a problem with that. But YouTubers do a great job. Look, clearly people love them because they've got millions of followers, and if you are struggling with your makeup brushes and you just can't get that mascara off, they can help you. And I just think they deserve it. They deserve the thousands, millions of pounds that they get for doing that. And God, OBEs should be given. And good luck to them all, and all who sail in them. Probably quite a few. But no, I think that but YouTube, what the kids are watching actually though is quite good. It's very different, the YouTubers and the games and everything. But I do think it's a shame that there's so much brilliant stuff being made for television for children that's maybe not being watched as much as it used to be when we were younger, because they're playing video games or whatever.
No, we had the 4 channels, didn't we? So it was sort of dictated.
You had 4. I only had 2. Oh. I'm really old.
We'll come into that as well in a bit.
But I think what was great though is that when you went to school the next day and you talk about what you watched the night before, everybody watched it. Do you know what I mean? So you had something in common. I mean, I'm sure there are things. Now they talk about the YouTubers and the brushes, but they go into school now and they're probably not talking about they're all talking about different things. I don't know. I'm probably just too old and don't understand it.
When he used to cut his hand, and the Kenny Everett Reg Truscott, And we should have been watching that as a kid. This guy with a bandsaw, chopping his thumb off and stuff like that. But we all watched it, and we all mentioned it the next day.
Yeah, it was great. But the other thing, though, we watched programs that we didn't like because there was nothing else to watch, but it actually helped us. We watched some, I don't know, nature program. Oh God, waiting for Blue Peters to come on, which also could be a bit hit and miss sometimes. But you watched it, and you were better off for watching it because actually it does expand your knowledge and everything. I am a dinosaur, aren't I?
Not at all. Not at all. I completely agree with what you're saying, to be fair.
But I don't know. I do feel sorry for the TV networks because, they are making this stuff and it is so much harder. Because the other thing is that children at home, not only can they watch ITV instead of CBBC and CBBC, they could also watch Disney and 36 other children's channels in this country alone, plus all the others on YouTube. And if you think about it, they've all got DVD players as well. If they'd rather watch a Pixar movie, they've probably got one of those and they can put that on. So the competition is absolutely so intense for program makers. It's kind of easier for Panto people because once they're coming in as part of their tradition to a theatre, you're giving them something so different, which is why I think we need to be careful with technology in Pantos, because I think we need to celebrate what it is. It's live, the 3D-ness, the live action. And I think what's great about the Kudos shows is that they, although they're using a lot of gadgetry, is they're keeping it all in the theatre. They're not going too much to VT or using technology, which is actually, do you know whether let's get away from all that. Just use the technology in a theatrical way rather than in a way which is very different to theatre. Just enjoy what you are, because I think we can afford to do that because they paid the money and now they can't escape.
And also, nothing beats a kid's reaction than
completely.
A comic coming out with a water pistol. Yeah,
absolutely. And how simple is that? Yeah. It's incredible, really, isn't it? What you can achieve on stage just by being there and interacting, compared to what TV companies are paying millions for. That painstakingly put together animations, and even then they don't know whether people are going to watch it or it's going to be successful.
The TV, then, how did that come about with yourself?
The TV?
The actual TV career. How did that come about with yourself?
I sent in a tape of me doing impressions, and I think they were looking for something different. I was presenting on the radio, in Radio Orwell, in Ips Radio Orful, which was a great station and a lovely place to learn. And the guy who gave me the break was a guy called, along with a lady called Sally Gordon, was a chap called Andy Archer, who was on Radio Caroline in the 60s. And he, for anyone who doesn't know, he came up with the term anorak. And he called all the people who came out to the ship, saying, "Oh, look at them, they're doing a radio show," and he referred to them as anoraks. And we developed a character which I then did on the telly called the Anorak, which was for terrible, absolutely disgraceful, awful character. Should never have been allowed on. But that was how I really started doing impressions on the radio and on telly.
And that kind of opened doors for you.
It did, and then I became a presenter, and I did the Broom Cupboard as well as the Broom Cupboard, a program called Fully Booked, which was for adults, for older kids and adults as well, I suppose. But also Jungle Run, all these different programs, and Fully Booked, which was like Crackerjack, live every Saturday, live with Peter Simon and Deborah Stevenson, and it was and Dominic, who's from Dick and Don. Amazing show. That was such a hoot to do. We did a little sketch, like a pantomime sketch at the end of each program, and it was all live, and it was absolutely shambolic sometimes, but that was part of its charm. And it was I actually really enjoyed doing that show in front of a live studio audience. And Peter Simon was hysterical in it. Josie Darby, she was good on it. And then in 2001, I think it was, they announced that there were going to be 2 channels, and I was very lucky to be chosen to be on CBeebies. And that has been brilliant. Really, really great, because being on CBeebies is like doing Panto all year, because it's just for kids. It's larger than life. When I'm on there, I'm not really me. I'm this other character. So it's a performance, and you don't have to be cool. And well, because I was never that. Let's face it, before. But so you could just go in and they would give you stuff to wear. Great, I haven't got to think about that anymore. Because I actually, during in the 90s, I wasn't terribly happy. Because I was doing all this stuff, which was amazing. I was so lucky, and I felt so ungrateful because I wasn't enjoying it, because I felt this pressure to buy the latest clothes and all this sort of thing. I didn't know what I was doing. Look at me, look at the state of me. I'm just not, you could put anything on me, it looks awful, Clothes look better in a wardrobe than they do on me. But so going on CBeebies, where it's just brightly coloured t-shirts and just entertain, just go on and do what you... Great, much better.
Did you never think about doing sort of kids entertaining outside of CBeebies or before that?
I think they're very different things. What children's entertainers do, there's some amazing ones down in Bournemouth, where I lived for 11 years. Jigsaw James and all these different characters down there. They're amazing. And watching them work and what they can do with special needs kids and in difficult areas and situations. What they are capable of doing with balloon modelling, but magic and circus skills is very different. I'm a variety turn. That's a very different skill. I'm a singer. I can not at the moment, but I'm normally a singer, and so and an actor and what have you. But I think children's entertaining is a very different breed.
So you never really thought that was going to be a career path then?
What, entertaining children?
Well, just how it is now, because you've entertained both of my children over the years, one of which has just gone off to uni. Sorry to say that.
You're right.
But from 2001 onwards, you were a big part in children's lives.
Yeah, it was a real privilege actually to be a part of CBeebies, especially earlier on, because it was really well. It's still loved. It's the most popular channel for kids, but back then it was quite new. It felt a little bit like being on pirate radio, because it was completely different. Before that it was just 20 minutes in the morning on BBC Two. Suddenly here was a channel all the time. What are we going to do? How are we going to fill all this time? Oh, just sing a song, give him his guitar. Second thoughts, bring it back. But so that's what I ended up doing, and it was great to be there at the beginning, because it was all so fresh and new and probably appalling in places, but the programs were great, and they still are, and they've only built on it. I've always thought, for a long time, how long can this go on for CBeebies? How long can this carry on being successful without somebody else coming in or something happen? And it's not happened. It's just carried on. And every year they do things like, one year we did Shakespeare 2 years ago. I was a very camp King Alonso, trying to be the butchest king in the kingdom, but it didn't work. But I thought that with the ballets that they've done, the 3 proms, they've really broken a lot of ground, which is very different to anything that's anyone on any channel's done before. So it's great to be a part of that. And I'm full of respect for the people who have run it all these years, and also the writers, because a lot of it's down to the producers and the writers. We just do what we're told and say what we are asked to say.
It's brave, though, isn't it, really, to be taking these things out that can be accused of slightly being a bit snuffly, shall I say? And
it's very difficult to know, exactly what you choose to put on a channel for children, where you want to expose them to absolutely everything that is in British culture. So what do you choose? So I think going down the line of putting absolutely everything on is probably the right thing to do. I think the only thing they haven't done is an opera, and that's a matter of time. But I think it's a really good idea to actually blow away the cobwebs of what we've all grown up thinking is, because I'm helping to put together a radio station for children at the moment, and there's going to be a fair amount of classical music on there. Now, when we were young, I don't know about you, but pop music was very, very important, and the charts were very important. You still had Top of the Pops, and people were driven by the children. Now, I don't think really care. If a good piece of music is a good piece of music, and they'll listen to it. We talked earlier about the Greatest Showman. Well, that's amazing stuff. The music is superb, and I think it's quite a new thing, isn't it, really, for children to actually latch on in such a way to such a clever, sophisticated score as that. It's quite incredible, really. So yeah, I think really CBeebies are probably right to do what they're doing, but and also to blow away those cobwebs of what people have perceived in the past to be quite elitist things, or and it's putting it in their living rooms. The proms are actually quite reasonably priced, but you're putting it in there, so hopefully in the future everyone will grow up thinking, yeah, that's something I could go to, because I remember watching that on CBeebies. And yeah, classical music, I've grown up listening to that because they used to play that concert out all the time on CBeebies, and it's just normalising something that should be normalised. And same with ballet and Shakespeare, really, although the jury's out for me with Shakespeare. As much as I try so hard, I think I must be, well, I'm going to say it, but I've got attention problems, really. I think that's why I love Panto, because it moves like that. Sometimes I sit in a theatre and watching a show and go, come on, get on with it. Where's my red pen? You just want to cut to the chase. It's unnecessary. You're wasting our time. Whereas Panto doesn't really waste time unless it goes on for more than 2 hours.
Have you ever found that it's, when you've taken part, you're sort of constantly trying to perfect it? Totally.
I think Panto is about warmth, but it's also about energy, and that energy is in the flow of the scenes. Now, something like the Palladium, which is probably about 2.5 hours long, it's worth every penny. You don't want it to. You don't want it to end because it's so rich, and you've got all those amazing performers. But when you go to some amateur shows, where they haven't got the budget, they might not have the talent. The best thing they can do is keep it short, and that's one thing about our amateur shows. They were short, they were brilliant, and so a lot of those well-produced, highly produced amateur shows are quite often better than some of the professional shows where they're self-indulgent and carry on. It's all about time. Don't you agree? Well, I've become a very old, cynical, nasty man. It's all coming out now.
It's absolutely fine, honestly. It's absolutely fine.
It's just between us. Nobody else is listening.
No, not at all.
But I think brevity is our friend in Panto. Brevity is our friend. This, you've got to be realistic about it. As much as I love it and I'm proud of it, it ain't, Chekhov or Ibsen. It's a pantomime, and I think it's got to move. It's got to move. You've got to think about kids now. Their attention spans are exactly the same as they were years ago. Children haven't changed. However, their expectations have. And when they know they can instantly get things on YouTube and television, they just press a button. Why would you want a slosh scene to last 15 minutes? Unless, of course, you've got sort of Danny and Clive on stage, in which case, you can just carry on for the whole show. But, no, actually, keep it short. And here endeth the lesson. Nobody's going to want to work with me now.
Do you like a slosh scene?
Yeah. But it's got to be done well. So you either stick to the script, as it were, that's in the public domain of sloshes, or you employ someone who's got circus skills who can do it properly. But don't, I think, try and reinvent it. Just stick to what's there. I think the trick in pantomime is not to be only to be clever in the things that are going to work and that you've got the skill set to make happen. Unless you want to get someone in who can bring that. It's like people who set fight scenes. You need a fight director, somebody who's got combat skills. Don't do it. just don't do it. It's too dangerous. You shouldn't be allowed to do it anyway. If this was telly, you would be marched off the premises. But do you know what I mean? I think you've got to work to what you've got. You can still have a fight scene, but just don't do it with swords. But I think you've got to work with what you've got, use the knowledge that you've got, and obviously you've got to be ambitious, but work with the skills that you've got and the people that you know you've got.
You said earlier on about that you've never taken time off of a show.
No.
Even when you've been really ill?
There was one show where I couldn't do the song sheet. I was just couldn't go on. So somebody else went on. But no. And I have been very, very ill. But, in that year, the second year of professional pantos, Bonnie Langford, I remember, was so ill. I think she had gastric flu. And not only did she still go on every show, she went full out. She did this, the thing with the... she swung on a rope, singing, I feel good. I mean, I was thinking, oh, no, you don't. But you'd never have known. You'd never have known. And I always think of her in that panto when I get ill, because if she could do that, I can do it. But I've been in shows where I'm literally throwing at Chatham Theatre when we were doing the Chris and Poi Roadshow, and I was being sick in the wings. I mean, I don't know what I'd eaten. Actually, I do, but I'm not going to say what it was. But I was so ill, and because of the nature of the show at that time, they weren't turning my mic off, so there was Poi on stage doing too little coming out of the speaker or whatever she was doing. Poor Poi.
You have such great chemistry with her. Have you ever thought about having her as a sidekick in Panto?
The trouble is, we never get booked because we, from a sort of a entrepreneurial producer's point of view, we would attract the same people to the same show, and they don't want that. They want somebody from kids TV, somebody from adult TV. That's how they build the cast. But I'd love to do Panto with her. And one day, hopefully, we will. She's a tremendous performer, but I'm not sure whether she would do them, because she's done a few, but I don't know whether she'd do it again. She'd take a bit of persuading, because she's got a young family as well.
They can come along. Yeah,
they did. To the roadshow. They knew the show better than we did. And I will never forget her son, Bruno. He was only about 9. And I said, are you all right, Bruno? And because we just done the first show, and he goes, and you look really happy. He goes, yes, because we don't have to watch the second show. We're off to the park. I was saying, yeah, great. Thanks for the support. But no, I mean, they were really supportive and allowed Poi to do that to her, which I adored. I love going around theatres and doing the Chris and Poi show. We were in a different theatre every day, over half terms and the holiday, like a lot of people do, and just chatting to the crews about their pantos and the theatre. It was just wonderful. I love being in them. And that was a real, because like doing Panto just for one day. Yeah.
Different places then. You've performed in how many pantomimes is it?
It's a couple of dozen professional ones now, plus all the CBeebies ones, which were great. So we've done quite a few of those, although in recent years I've not been involved in the writing because they've been Christmas shows. So we've done things like Alice in Wonderland. That was wonderful. I really thought that was very good. And then of course the Shakespeares and everything, which are really well done. The team who put them on are incredible.
Any favourite places where you've performed then in the country?
Richmond is wonderful. I mean, it's a proper chocolate box theatre, and I think you have the ghosts of everyone who's been there before. I've done a couple of things, but not pantomime, at the Palladium, and obviously that is also one of the country's incredible theatres. There are theatres like the King's in Edinburgh, which are incredible. Swansea Grand, I did a panto there with Sue Pollard. That was a lovely year. Lovely people, beautiful theatre. And of course the Pavilion in Bournemouth, where I've done 8 pantos, and Lighthouse Pool last year. I love that part of the world. You know, it's home, really. One day again, probably very soon, maybe. I don't know. But, you know, I love the old Matcham theatres, but I also like the modern ones. I don't really see any... It's about the people who go there, really. You know, and Swindon this year. And Swindon, the Wyvern Theatre, like Poole and Harlow and a lot of modern theatres where you don't really have a balcony or a circle, you know, very intimate, and they work just as well for Panto as an old chocolate box theatre.
When you're writing then, do you write for yourself or do you write for an audience that you're thinking of in the setting it's for?
I write for the kids, first of all, because I think some of the patterns, like I've just written a Sleeping Beauty, and Sleeping Beauty is one of a really tricky panto, because all this going backwards and forwards in time that a lot of people do is all well and good, but I think you can lose some of the very young kids. So I'm looking for ways of telling that story slightly differently to maybe not do that, actually. I think done well. There's a Michael Harrison script that FFE had, which was very, very good. When I saw that, we did it actually, but the Tim Vine version that I saw was very, very good. But it is a tricky story, that one. So my version of it, I started writing for the kids. Then I layer on the adult jokes and and then working in the cast that I've got. So I think you're actually. I think a good script, I'm not saying mine is, but I think a good script, what the ambition anyway, is to write a script that works for absolutely everyone. It works for the audience of all ages. So you're writing, and it's not just kids and adults, it's all the ages. You know, it's several layers, isn't it? You know, it's preschool, it's, primary age, not much we can do with the teenager. They'll just be looking at their phones anyway, don't worry about them. And then... And then, you all the different people above that, and the same with the music. If you can pick tunes that everyone knows, isn't it great when a young pop band, like, for example, when Boyzone did Uptown Girl, it was them, wasn't it? Or was it Westlife? It was Westlife. It was Westlife. I'm so with it. What's that Dame line? If that's been with it, I'm glad I'm without it. But I think that when you get a hit like that, so all the adults go, "Oh, that's a great Billy Joel number to put in there," and all the kids are thinking, "Yeah, that's great. It's Westlife. That's great. That's gold." And it's a good song. It's a good song.
Ticks all the boxes.
Yeah, it ticks all the boxes. But I think you've got to think about that with the humour as well. How many bits of route, and the structure of the story, you put things in that they're all going to get. Everyone in the audience is going to get. And also then write for the people you've got in it. And I always, flatter myself, but, always try and go for that Perry and Croft style of comedy where everyone's involved. I love the scenes where everyone's on stage. I love the scenes where you've got absolutely everyone on stage and you've got everyone playing to their character. So the comedy is coming from the character. My other favourite scenes are the baddie and the dame. I will be in the wings watching those scenes, every single performance, crying with laughter, absolutely wetting myself, because it just makes me laugh. I don't know why. It's just my humour. But, when the baddie's, trying to get... especially in Aladdin, where Abanazar's trying to get round Twanky and flatter her to get the information about her son. Oh, it's wonderful. It's so funny.
Is it great then to hear your words coming out of these? That's
the thing I love most about Panto, and also then see what they do with it. And that's joy. I love it. I much more enjoy the directing and writing than being in it, if I'm absolutely honest with you, because for me, it's the bits when I'm even when I'm in a scene, but when I'm not talking and I'm watching it all go on, I think it's absolutely marvellous. I just and watching people enjoying it and just thinking, this is nuts. This is absolutely crazy. Yeah. But, I'll never obviously fall asleep on stage, although I did work with a dame once, who I'm not going to mention the name of, and they said to me, and this is absolutely true, and we've been rehearsing all week, and he was an ugly sister in the show, and we were in the lineup to get our microphones checked. And so we've done all the work, the fun bit, we're opening that night. And so we're having the mic checks and everything. And he turned to me and said, "Now, the thing is, Chris, sometimes I might just go, I look out there and I look at the lights and our costumes and I look at everyone around and I just go. I'll just go. And you'll have to fill. And I went, what? What did you just say? And I actually made a phone call to somebody who who worked with him. He said, yeah, he does. But he never did it. But I kind of get where he's coming from. And I loved that person actually very much. I thought they were brilliant. And the reason why they were brilliant is because, like me, they're looking at everything else. And it's not just about them. And I think actually, yeah, it's not just about you. It's a team sport, Panto. It's a sport. And, I worked with Simon from Blue, Simon Webb, a couple of years ago. And his approach to it was that of a sportsman, because he was a footballer. I love... do you know what? There's nobody I haven't enjoyed working with. Even people who are a little bit funny sometimes, they're either really, really talented or, they're fine. But, he was an example of someone who was just such a team player. He really got it. And, he's good luck to him.
Anything you don't like then about pantomime? I hear often the term the Panto blues.
I don't get that anymore. When it's all over. I don't get that anymore because I've been doing it so long, my dear. But and also the next one just comes around so quickly now. Because I think as you get older, it's like, oh, cheapers, I've only just finished the last one. But and when you turn round and you look at all the little kids on stage at the end of the last show and they're all crying, and you think, oh, I was like that once. Now I'm, positively diseased, but and bitter. But no, I think I don't get the blues because I've had enough. By the time you get to the end, I save my energy. I conserve my energy for those 2 shows a day, so I've got enough to get me through the stamina right to the end. So on that last show, that's it. I'm sorry. I'm off to Gran Canaria. Bye. But so I'm looking forward to a holiday or something. But no, can't go on holiday anymore. But so. No, I don't get the blues, and there's nothing about pantomime that I don't enjoy. I absolutely enjoy absolutely everything in it, from set, the costumes, everything. I think it's all a wonderful craft. It's pageantry. It's more than just theatre, which, going back to what I was saying, it's very dangerous when directors are given the role of directing a panto and they know nothing about it, just because they've done some other show. It's a different discipline, and it's a different thing, and you've got to earn your stripes. You've got to either been in a few or shadowed or learn, and there's some and watch some really good people. I'm really pleased George Wood's directing Croydon this year. That'll be a good show with Tim Vine and but people go and watch these people on Michael Harrison's shows, and see the people who who've won awards for directing or whatever. They're the people to go and see.
What about a 3-show day?
I don't think it's wise, to be honest. I know why theatres have to do it, but maybe just 1 day a week. But once again, it's about energy, and if you destroy your company because they're giving everything. I mean, young comics, brilliant comic going into Hayes this year, guy called Jamie, worth going to see him. But he's never done it before. As far as I know, Panto. Yeah, and for those people who are young, who don't know how to conserve energy, they're just going to burn out, and they'll sound like I do now. And I think it's very dangerous. You've got to look after your tools, your cast of your tools, and doing 3 a day, I think is a bit silly myself. It also means you've got to keep the show duration really, really tight, which is actually a good thing to be doing, but I don't know. I'm not sure.
When you're performing then, do you find the shows evolve during the runs?
Sorry, I'm laughing because I'm just remembering something. I did do a 3-show day in Bromley with Matthew Kelly, funnily enough, and I remember him telling me, "Have we been up to see the giant pet?" And I'm going, yes, no. We didn't know where we were. And we were just laughing because we were just, it's like almost like that intoxicated drunkenness that you get, when you're so tired. And I mean, he was Dame. He was even more exhausting. And I don't know how people do it, actually. Sorry, what were you saying?
I was asking. What was I asking?
Sorry, I've interrupted you. You've lost your train of thought because of me. I went back in time. Something I said I'd never do.
That's it. Sleeping Beauty.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier on about you're setting up a radio station for children.
Yes.
What spurred you on to do that? And also, what's it about?
It's called Little Radio, and it's a radio station for really preschoolers and their families, but really all kids. And but there are lots of nursery rhymes on it. So yeah, it's skewed slightly more to preschoolers. But kids these days don't actually discriminate. They don't. Older kids. They don't. When we were kids, I remember going, "Oh, that's for babies." They don't do that anymore. If it's good, they'll like it. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what the label is on the tin. So yeah, it's for preschoolers and their families, and it's an introduction to every kind of music. There's a lot of cabbage hidden in the mashed potatoes in terms of, there is pop, there is little disco moments, and, it is obviously inspired by my work on CBeebies, and CBeebies have been very supportive of it, and they're helping me with it, as are, other networks as well. So it's not a BBC station. It won't have adverts, but it will get hopefully funding, and there will be sponsorship. But I've got a lot of the backing of a big radio group. There's the Story Museum now involved, BAFTA Kids, 2 orchestras, Scottish Chamber Orchestra, they're amazing, and the big Bournemouth Symphony Orchestra, other orchestras coming on board. But it's worth a listen, because it's full of tunes like Windmill and Old Amsterdam, Up and Up, but also Yellow Submarine, the Beatles, as well as nursery rhymes. So that it's all really big, vivid, colourful songs. Happiness, you mentioned Ken Dodd. I was trying to think of songs by artists that you've been talking about. But, it's a very colourful, rich station. And once again, children that we're hoping to entertain don't care whether it's played on a ukulele or performed by Justin Timberlake. As long as it's good music, it's in, and not rude. So nothing with explicit will be on there.
So it's going to be safe, yeah.
Yeah, and anything about love is love in a sort of a global sense and a brotherly love way, rather than, obviously Barry White, Theodopolis, Bean Wildebeest stuff. So it's all, what the world needs now is love, sweet love, and, all you need is love, rather than anything else. But we've got some really good people on board, and I can't announce them all because they're all signed up, and I don't want to jinx it, but amazing people, and people are phoning me already saying they want to be part of it, and which is great, really great.
Are you going to be doing a request show?
It's Saturday mornings, yeah, you can do that, but it's not quite like a normal radio station in that it's not very smashy and nicey. It's more about lots of. I mean, there's stories in the evenings. We have bedtime stories in the evening, but very, very short. Everything's about. The longest thing on the station is 5 minutes long, but most of it's about 20 seconds. It moves like lightning. No human being could possibly drive this show in the old-fashioned way, the old days.
Will there be any Terry Scott, my brother?
You've nailed it. He's in the top 10.
Is he?
Yeah. No. Yeah, exactly. All those sort of things. It's interesting, though, because there are things like that which we can't play anymore because they're just not, for obvious reasons, some of them. But, there's certain things that aren't appropriate. Obviously we have a cherished Ofcom license that we do not want to lose, and unlike YouTube, it seems you can just put anything on YouTube, but so it would seem, but you can't do that on the radio. And you're on DAB and apps and goodness where you've got to, so that takes a lot of time, making sure there's compliance and all that sort of stuff.
How can people listen to it?
There's an app. So you just go onto the App Store and ask for Little Radio, or you can say play Little Radio to your smart speaker. Did you know 40% of people now listen to the radio through smart speakers, which makes you wonder why anyone would spend £150,000 on a DAB frequency. But there you go. No, people still listen to DAB and FM as well. But yeah, we think our main audience will be on the app actually and smart speakers. But the first one starts next Monday in Portsmouth on DAB. But really, it's the app. And I think it sounds better through the app.
I'll make sure that the app link is included.
Thank you.
And then people can click that there.
Please, that would be great.
Whatever they're listening in the world. Will you be able to tell? Because with this, I can tell where people are listening.
Yes, you can, yeah.
So you can see where...
Yeah, and it would be great, actually, because even if you don't want to listen, just download it. Because it actually really helps. Really helps.
Somebody might listen to it.
Do you know, I think a lot...
kids as well.
But the other thing is, I think a lot of people listen to it, actually, because it's quite... I thought I was going to sort of, take it or leave it. But actually, the playlist is such that it appeals to adults just as much as kids. And, when you think of the number of adverts on a lot of commercial, well, there are no adverts. So if you can just bypass 20 minutes of Bar Bar Black Sheep, should it not be your thing, sure enough, there's going to be a nice record for you. And there's lots of Panto in it. It's pretty much everything.
I was going to ask that as well.
Yeah,
Panto.
it's got a real Panto feel to it because the music is so colourful. And all the colourful tunes that we use as openers in Panto, like Colour My World and Downtown, they're there in Pantos for a good reason, because everyone finds them appealing, but because they bounce and because they are colourful songs, and they work really well for this radio station.
In this world of doom and gloom, then,
yes,
to be this sort of feel-good station, couldn't it?
You are very clever, because that's exactly why we really wanted to push this forward, because this project has been on the back burner for a very long time, and that is exactly one of the reasons why we went ahead with it. I went to a big meeting where they were talking about the impact of fake news on kids, and it's horrendous. I didn't realise, and seeing the real stats, I think it was Ofcom who put it all together, the impact of all this rhetoric, all this nastiness with Trump and all these horrible people. Well, not necessarily horrible, but how he comes across to a lot of people. He does, and I think that that has impacted on their mental health. Because it's omnipresent, isn't it? There are apps everywhere. News is being pumped out everywhere. People have the news on much more than we did when we were kids, when it was just the 6 o'clock news and the 10 o'clock news. In some households, it's there all the time. And there's a lot of... So this radio station will have no news, only good news, only happy tunes, nothing aggressive, which sounds really wet. But actually, it isn't.
It's nice. It's
still rock. There's still rock on it.
Is there?
It's happy rock.
Oh,
Brighton rock, Blackpool rock, but my little stick. No, it's not on there. But just happy tunes that make you smile. I don't know whether there are many radio stations doing that.
No, it's all a bit doom and gloom, though, isn't it?
Yeah,
with politics and everything else.
Well, even the travel news that pops on most radio stations, you don't want to hear that, do you?
No.
Our weather bulletins. It's going to be sunny today. You might not need a coat. That's all we say. You don't need the temperature. It means nothing to a 3-year-old.
Have you got your Christmas plan then this year?
Yeah, we've just been refining that, actually. Yeah. So the Christmas schedule's good on Little Radio. Really, really lovely. Pretty.
Excellent. Can't wait to listen to it. When do you go live, by the way?
On Tuesday next week. So it's streaming at the moment, but on a private little network. So we've got certain people tuning in, obviously one at a time, because the PRS and MCPS license doesn't kick in until next week. But when that goes in, then we have permission.
Well, when we put this out, I'm sure.
I think we'll be there now.
You'll be there.
I hope so. Gosh, I'll give you a call. Let you know.
So what's your plans then for this Christmas?
Swindon at the Wyvern Theatre, which I've been to a few times with the roadshow, and so I know what a great theatre is, and I know what a great town it is, and also I know their history. It's always had a good panto. I think 5 years they've had Adam Woodyard doing his pantos there, and they've been great. And so it's kind of kudos because it's an HQ theatre, but Daryl Back is the producer, and really enjoying working with her and Matt Rickson, Michelle Collins. Yeah, really lucky.
I've heard from a couple of people that they've auditioned for you as well.
Oh, right.
Yes, they just speaking to people, and a couple of people said to me, "Oh, you're the guy who does the podcast." I'm like, "Yeah," and I mentioned your name, and they said, "Oh, I auditioned for him a little while ago." What are you looking for in performance when they audition for you?
Do you know, it's really interesting. Since I've actually gone into auditions, because I never used to go, because I just leave it to the producers and people who know what they're doing. But I've started going to them, actually, and I think it's really important because I think they need help. They need another set of eyes and ears, in the room. I think the more people they've got, the fairer it is. But also, the one selfish reason, other than for the show, for myself, it's actually made me realise that the audition process is not just about whether you're good. It's about whether you fit in with the rest of the company that's already been cast or about to be put together. There's so much that goes into it, and you know that from the pros. The pros that come in, who obviously have done not just the 3 auditions that they've done that day, but have been doing it for 40 years. Their attitude is just perfect, so professional. Come in, shine, do what they do, and they go, "Lovely to see you," and they're out the door because they know that it's. Whether they get it or not is not just down to whether they're good. It's whether they fit into the thing. So, yeah, I just wanted to say that because, it's only really dawned on me that this year, watching certain people. But I think what you're looking for from any company member is someone who actually has an affinity with Panto. There are lots of really highly trained people, especially going in for like Prince or Princess, who are outstanding, and if they were in Wicked or whatever, they would be brilliant. But with Panto, if you're going for a Panto audition, please think about what that might entail. We don't actually need to hear you sing perhaps the most sophisticated musical song. You're probably better off singing a pop song, if I'm honest. Let's be honest. And so, but you're also looking, I think, what I'm looking for also is originality. Somebody who's going to actually surprise the audience. Because a lot of people who go to the Panto every single year. They've been to that theatre for donkey's years. They know what's going on, and they've probably seen whatever book it is, Cinderella, say, every 5 years. And they've seen lots of people do it. And I think your responsibility as a producer is to surprise that audience and put in someone. We have an American Prince this year. And I wasn't sure, actually, but I think it's going to be absolutely brilliant. And but I think that's a really good bit of casting, because I doubt it was an American Prince last time they had Sleeping Beauty and Swindon, and he's a great performer. So yeah, you've got to be good, but also I think you've got to work with the rest of the team. You've got to look at you've got to look at all the shapes, colours, and I mean that in a very sort of dramatic way. How big are the characters? How colourful are your characters that you've already got? They've got to match really. They've got to look like they've come from the same palette. Otherwise, it's not going to work. So yeah, there's a bit of that. But really, are people up for it? Because I think you can tell as well. Some people are professional auditionees, and they go along because it's something to do, or because their agent told them to, or the job centre won't give them their money if they don't go. And so you can tell. You can tell when people really want to be in a Panto.
Here's a question for you. How do you keep yourself looking so young?
Bless you for that.
That's right.
Bless you for that, Panto.
Lovely £20 note, by the way, but thank you.
Don't feel it. I'm practically sponsored by Just for Men, which is a hair dye product. And for anyone else with short hair like mine, see, you're lucky. You've got,
No, there's.
Are there grey bits?
There's grey bits, but where there's hair, there's grey.
I love that line. In the only funny, really, 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 really laugh out loud moment for me in the "Are You Being Served" movie. Have you seen that?
Yes.
which was
Tented
nowhere near as
houses,
good as
yeah.
the series is excellent, and I can watch them over and over again. But the only really funny line in that movie was when in the hairdressers and somebody said, "Oh, you've got wavy hair." Yeah, it's waving goodbye to your head. That's quite a good Panto line. But yeah, mine is waving goodbye to my head. But you know, I've got it. No, yours is all right.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, just don't nod down.
It's fine.
I was blinded by the reflection.
Thanks.
But no, you've got a good head.
Um,
No, you've got a good head of hair, but also you're lucky because it's a good colour. Do you colour it?
No.
You don't colour it?
No, I don't.
I thought it looks consistent, whereas mine is difficult because I'm 20 shades of brown. But no, this the one to get if you've got short hair, if it does go grey and you're vain or you appear in Panto and you want to look younger than you are, then just for men. But get the one for moustaches and beards.
Oh.
Don't get the stuff you have to put gloves on. Because one, it's more expensive, and you get 2 goes for your money if you get the tubes, and you just use what you want, and it goes on, and it's great. So I use that, and they keep booking me. But I'm white.
Really?
I'm absolutely white. Absolutely white now. Yeah, really white. But it looks really odd. It really does, and it looks really, really odd because I've got a birthmark or something on the back of my head, which is brown. So it looks like I've dyed it white. But no, I'm very, very grey. I went grey years ago.
Didn't stop Schofield.
He looks good on it, don't you? I think he looks
Silver Fox.
Yeah, it suits him. It didn't initially though, because he was a sort of two-tone, was it, like a badger? But you know, when it went all white, I thought that now I think it's good. It's quite fluffy. It looks like it's very good. His hair at the moment. Whoever does it, unless he does it himself, does a good job. It looks just it doesn't look too gelled. It's the right sort of fluffy, like one of those little dogs. Really cool.
Like a Bichon Frise.
A Bichon Frise. Yeah, but he's But no, I'm very white.
Wouldn't have believed that.
Yeah, but no. So just for men.
You look young though. You do look young.
Oh, bless you.
But I do mean that, even in HD on the telly.
HD, that was the curse. You see, with HD, you can't wear as much makeup. So when HD came out, the makeup artists in television had to stop using sponges and plastering the makeup on, and we'll go, oh god, no, can see what we're really like. Some people, look like an X-ray photo, don't they? Because it's all god, you can see the bones. But now they use what do you call them? That blows it on. What do you call it? Blow pen. I can't think of the word. Airbrush. People have been screaming for a moment there. But yeah, they use airbrushes, so it's just a gentle film of makeup. But I don't know whether you noticed this on Coronation Street, but they can't, ever since HD came out and say Coronation Street, they obviously have to use airbrush. So the older members of the cast, because they're using less makeup, what they do, they put a what they call a grading system in the edit. So they make the picture darker, so people don't look ill. They make them darker. But unfortunately, for some older members of the cast whose teeth are going a bit yellow, it just makes it look really bad. So I've heard from friends who work on the programme, they've stopped doing certain close-ups of certain people because it's quite frightening. Once again, Halloween's come early. But, and I think that, so... I'm lucky that my skin is such that, I don't, at the moment, touch wood, don't need too much makeup on. I need it under my eyes because I'm always like a panda because I don't sleep well.
Do you party much when the Panto's on?
No, we're very boring. Very boring. I love to have relax, like last year I shared a flat with Richard Gibson and we had a lovely time, and we'd go back and have watch Map and Lucia and have a glass of port. But in the previous year I was in a Premier Inn with Nigel Ellicott, and we used to go back, and that was like going on an audience with, because he was just telling me all these amazing stories like he does for you. And so yeah, I love the social side, and yeah, there are the company meals. I mean, that's all part of Panto and really important that you do it. But no, rest of the year I don't party anymore. I'm not really into clubs and
crazy golf.
I like Crazy Golf. It's a very good one in Western Supermare, folks. That's a really good one, that Adventure Island. But yeah, and Boscombe Pier. But yeah, no, I like... I'm very boring, actually. You know, I like watching, as people who, if they're still listening to this, have already made their mind up. Oh dear, how did he get the job? But, you know, I love nothing more than coming home and relaxing in front of an old sitcom. I watch some new stuff, you know, not totally living in the past, but, you know, if I want to laugh, you know, Benidorm makes me laugh. I love Benidorm, and we watch that over and over again to the point where I kind of know what they're going to say. But Are You Being Served, Dad's Army, all those old stuff, and we watch those on repeat. We've got them all box sets.
What would be your advice then for young people trying to get into pantomime?
Getting into pantomime, I think just being mindful of, you know, the what is a magic trick. Pantomime is very different from any other show, you know, in that there are things that get laughs in a pantomime and that work in a pantomime that just wouldn't work the rest of the year or in any other show. And I think there was a really good interview with Danny Baker, who went into a pantomime, and Danny Baker looked at the script in rehearsal and apparently went, "This is terrible, you know, this isn't funny." And somebody said, "Look, just trust me, Danny, trust me. Do that line." And he's absolutely right. And he was really good, Danny, because he said, yeah, and that chap was right. And he went on there. And these things. So you've got to trust the material. And I think people who try and change the comedy in pantos in terms of introducing too much observational comedy, I just think it's a bit laboured, and it belongs to another type of show. And I'm not sure whether the audiences are really... Panto's about energy, you know. The lines should bounce, the dialogue should bounce from one to another, you know. And what I do when I'm writing a script, I look at a line, or even if I haven't written it, you know, and looking at somebody else's, you know, you look at a line, can I say that any quicker? And am I losing the punchline? Because sometimes a line needs to be a certain length in order to punch it, in order to deliver it. Otherwise, it's not working. But more often than not, it needs to be as succinct as possible without losing the meaning of the gag. And I think that that's true with all dialogue in a panto, whether it's a gag or not. You know, just don't waste people's time, and go and see the good ones. Pay rather than go and see two cheap ones. Spend the money going to see, you know, a big successful pantomime to learn from, as well as seeing everyone. But go and see everything, because there will be a lot of amateur ones that are better than professional ones in towns, and there'll be ones that, you know, are really big professional shows that just don't land, that just don't work because somebody's being spiteful in it or something. And thank God I've never been in one of those shows, but I've heard some nightmare stories. Towns have lost their panto because of it. There you go. But I think that, you know, go and see a lot before you do it.
What's your
that'll
favourite?
Be my advice.
What's your favourite panto routines?
I love dialogue, and I think that the most successful routines in pantomime are not necessarily dialogue driven, and I have to watch myself on that, because actually physical humour can be and you know, slapstick is enjoyed by everyone. It doesn't discriminate in age. So that's what I really should be putting in, and I do love it when it's done well. But personally, what makes me laugh, those Damon Baddie routines, and once again everyone on stage, you know, when the ball is bouncing around that company and everyone's joining. I had one really good year. You know, I've been very fortunate the recent years, but there was one Cinderella in Richmond where, you know, there was one particular scene where, you know, just everyone was absolutely firing on all cylinders, and it was a joy to be in, you know. And I'm lucky last year as well. And, you know, I can't think of a year where I haven't been lucky. And I think that's why I'm still doing it. Once again, going back to what I was saying, if people have a bad experience, you can put them off doing it again. If people's first experience is a bad experience, they'll never do it again. And that's really sad, because it's like people going, you know, I mean, I've spoken to people, I can't stand theatre. I went to see a play once, it was terrible. But well, did you see any others? Well, not after that. I mean, that's how people are. That's why I don't go and see football matches. But I know I'm missing out, you know. But the thing is, I think just go and see as many as possible.
Well, this leads me on to my last question. Your dream panto. You can be in it. You can be sitting in the stalls watching it. You can write and direct it if you like. Mm-hmm. You can choose a theatre. And your dream cast, alive or deceased.
Oh, that's good. Yeah. Well, yeah, and I know everyone answers a question like that very differently. I am always surprised when I work with a company, because you go in there thinking it's going to be one thing, and it rarely is exactly what you thought it was going to be, but you go in there with the best ambition, the best intention. And so it's a difficult one to answer, because some of the happier shows I've done have had no celebrities or people that you've heard in, and have not necessarily been in the biggest, most prestigious venues. But I guess if I had to assemble a cast of people who I think would get on really well, I would be really hard pushed to think of the perfect company, because there are people that I love who just would clash with other people, so I just couldn't do it. So I honestly cannot answer the question, and I also can't answer the question because I absolutely love both things in equal measure, being in it or not being in it. So it doesn't really bother me. It doesn't bother me where I am and what I'm doing, as long as I've got a company who want to be there and an audience that comes. I couldn't care less where it was. But once I'm there, then I will really care. I give everything, absolutely everything, because it's about commitment, and if you're not committed, it's not going to work.
I can tell you absolutely adore the medium.
I love pantomime probably more than absolutely everything. My cat. I think that pantomime is the best bit of entertainment that we have in this country, because it is for everyone, and it's nothing but joyous and happy. It makes people happy. Well, good one. And it makes people's Christmas, and that, of course, there's that responsibility to take that element seriously. People are paying to see you enjoy yourself, but I don't actually really enjoy being in a pantomime until you start rehearsing, because up to here, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, it's hard work. It's a lot of logistics, and it's paperwork, and it's destroying dreams, and goodness knows what. It's not the best fun, and it's a worry as well. But then once you're there and you can see it all coming together, then it's electric.
Do you get to go and see many?
Not as many as I like. No, not really. Probably see about 2 or 3 after I finish every year.
What are your must-see ones?
I really wanted to go and see a Paul Hendy show, because although I've seen one of the shows that he's written and directed before, I'd not seen an Evolution Panto, so I saw the one in Canterbury, which was wonderful, with and I'd never seen Phil, Mr. Maker, and I thought he was wonderful. I'd never seen that side of him. I didn't know that he was that performer as well as the performer that I've seen on CBeebies. He was brilliant, but the whole cast were, and the show was great. I loved, and I went to see a completely different show in Aldershot, which is more for the kids, but so well done. The stagecraft, because I know that theatre well. Aldershot. It's not got a fly tower, but you wouldn't know. The way they work those cloths was magical. The lighting was sensational. The storytelling was great. But it was very much for the kids, and with PC Pooh and all these different characters. It was all, it was, but I tell you what it is. Once you get people, and this is where I think you've got to be really tough as a director. You've got to get, or more so as a writer, actually. You've got to trust your material and trust that once you've got them on a wavelength, that you'll keep them there. So if you're just doing lollipop jokes, they will laugh, they will love you, and they will come back. Aldershot is sold out every year, and I don't think they have much double entendre in there. I could be wrong. I might have missed it, but I don't think there is. It's a children's show. Whereas you go and see other shows, mentioning no names, and they maybe go over the line a bit with the double entendre, but it's still a panto. There are all these different definitions of panto, and I think it's really important to go out and see all these different translations of the panto bard and see what people are doing, because you learn a lot by watching panto wherever it is. Churchill panto, my cousin's kids were in a Churchill panto in Gloucester a few years ago, and the vicar was the dame. It was outrageous. I mean, there was stuff I wouldn't allow in a panto, but it was, we were crying with laughter, and they didn't really have a set, and it was like on a protruding stage, and it was still a panto. It had heart and warmth, and it was wonderful. I do have a problem with bad panto because it affects everyone, and like my neighbours down the road, when I moved here 5 years ago, they said, "Oh, where are you off to?" I didn't really know them very well then, and said, "Oh, I'm off to do a panto," and they were, "Oh, I can't think of anything worse." They're not that common, but that's my cold. But and do you know what? I didn't hate them for saying it, but just talking to them, it's because it saw a terrible panto. So whoever that was, thanks a bunch. Now my neighbours aren't coming.
Have you tried converting them?
Oh no, I'll leave them alone. I'm not going to force them. It might just compound what they already thought. But you've got to respect, haven't you? You've got to respect pantoism for everyone. In the same way as I'm not a fan of rugby, trying to play it at school. It's just, if your heart's not in it, it's never going to work for you, is it?
Funny shaped balls.
Funny shaped balls, and
Well, on that note,
but yeah. Oh God.
Thank you so much for taking part.
Thank you, and all the best with what you're doing. It's fantastic, And I think people actually should listen to, because it's a living workshop of and hearing, people in the business, but people who've been doing it for a lot longer. These are time capsules which people will hopefully listen to. If you can get the big dames of our time. If only we had recordings of Terry Scott. There are very few, actually, and thank God for the V&A, who are preserving costumes but also recordings and documentaries, because it's really, really important to build on what's gone before, and see what came before. This is what gives it the heart.